Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Thriving the Dissertation, our webinar series hosted by Eastern University. I'm proud to be here on behalf of Dr. Hernandez. She's our gracious host for this incredible series. And tonight we have a wonderful speaker here with us, Alette Liz Williams, and she's going to be talking about strategies and tips for writing your dissertation. She's got some great valuable things to share. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alette, and I'm going to pull up her presentation. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's 8 p.m. here where I am in the tropical Twin Isle of Trinidad and Tobago. That's where I currently reside. And we full on in the carnival season, but we are also in the same space that you all are. And I am to understand that some of you are students and some of you are like in your dissertation phase starting. I'm not sure what stage you all are at, but it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon with you. Karen, you could start the presentation. Yeah. Okay, everyone. So next slide. So I just want to firstly express my honor for being here and appreciation to Dr. Hernandez for having me give my insight into the challenges that I've met with a lot of the people that I've helped with their research and share that knowledge with you. Next slide. So about me, I you can go ahead and press Karen. I Alette Liz Williams. I use my full name because my middle name is not a nickname, it's actually Liz. I am an entrepreneur, the founder of Right Concepts here in Trinidad and Tobago, where I am. And I'm a multi-hyphenate entrepreneurial ambivert. That's how I class myself. I have been assisting people with research. Mature students are my niche. I have been assisting persons for over 15 years. This year will actually be my 16th year in assisting people with research. I think someone may need to mute. I'm not sure. Just getting a slight bit of feedback, right? Next point. So I created firstly my academic aid because I actually started helping people with research when I was a teenager. A teacher of mine taught me how to do research and I fell in love with it. And from there, I started helping master's students. And then I went on to assisting master's and PhD students and professors with research. So I got started pretty young. And then in 2017, I changed it to the graduate guru because what happened was that most of my clients would come to me right when they were in this phase, the dissertation phase, right before graduation. And I had the honor of seeing every single one of them cross the stage virtually and well in their little notes on social media and their pictures that they would send and videos that they would send when they were telling me how grateful they were for the assistance. Next point. So the goal of the graduate guru itself is to just support working professionals who are studying and who want to upskill their academic portfolio. That's what I say, because mature students need a different type of support that's not always readily accessible. And so this is why I actually created the Graduate Guru, which runs parallel to my business, Right Concepts, which is a public relations consultancy. Here. Next slide. So the main issues, I won't press everyone. You don't all need to put on your cameras or say anything, but you can put it in the chat. What have been your main issues in terms of getting the topic or writing the dissertation itself? If you can give me about 2 or 3, then this will just validate that this is the same thing that all of my clients get across the whole spectrum of academic learning. So anyone cares to share what their challenges are, knowing where to start? Yeah, just starting, right? Thanks, Laura. Anyone else? I just need about 3. Writing the lit review. The lit review is a very difficult one. Narrowing the topic. Okay, great. Well, then I think I'll be on the right track with giving some of you some tips to fast track that because, oh gosh, being exhausted. I can definitely understand that. Too many directions of possibility, not enough narrowing, having a topic and trying to find a sponsor. That's interesting as well. Yeah. You're in the writing process without supervisor's help or navigation, lack of feedback. That is also an issue. Yeah. Wow. Wow. These are, in my 16 years of helping with research, I can honestly tell you that you are not alone in the challenges that you have when it comes to writing your dissertation. Now, I would have recently held, actually last year, I would have held a research hacks masterclass. This is an abridged version of that because we're not playing with as much time. So what I did was narrow in on the more key areas to assist you with some of these issues. And after that, I did tell Karen that I would be willing to share the slides. I would probably want to make 1 or 2 tweaks and put it into a handbook sort of format and share it with her after so that she can share it with you. Okay, so next slide, Karen. Yeah, let's get started. Next slide. So straight away, this might seem very trivial, but I always impress on everyone that I assist with research to start with formatting because it is the simplest thing to get out of the way. And next point, it actually takes a lot of time to complete. Next point, Karen, because when you begin to write, most people will tell you when you're doing research, just start writing. That's very easy for anybody to say, but based on the issues that you're having, just starting to write is not the best place to start. Strangely enough, Eating the Frog, if you've ever read that book, or starting with something as simple as this gets you in the mode of actually feeling like you've started something. I encourage people to start formatting first, as in go in your header section, do your headers according to your research style, the reference style, sorry. Do your double spacing. There are ways to go into your Word document itself and format your document before you begin. These things help you because the instant you begin to write, your document is already fallen into the reference style and you do not have to come back to that after. It takes time to complete, especially if you have to reference after or come back in and do in-text citation, which is also another challenge for people. Because some people write and they just drop the link, write and drop the link, and I'll come back to that after, but they're just trying to get the information out. And they're getting information and they're trying to do it. Unless you have time or you've delegated time towards this, or you have a proof editor or somebody who's a research assistant, this is my first point for everyone. It seems simple, but to me, it's extremely important. It gets you motivated. Next slide. Map out your conceptual framework. And this is for the people who have challenges narrowing their topic, but also getting overwhelmed with so many different possibilities to write your topic. It's also very important for your literature review. So this is an example of someone I assisted, and I told her to map out her conceptual framework. First point is that you have to get your key point. First point, Karen. So first of all, you have to remember that you are the only person presenting on this topic. You can click Karen, because they are like about 11 points or so. Oh, go back. Is it not showing up? Oh, I'll probably have to list them out. And this may be the slides before the last one that I sent you, but that's okay. I can still talk about those points. It's okay.
You can see some are darker in highlight, but I don't think, I'm not sure the animation is working.
No, I don't think it's working because Murphy's Law is doing it's doing the most right now. But it's okay because I actually have the points. So let me spell them out for everyone so that you can take notes if you want. And if not, where is my Research hacks, strategies for writing tips in the dissertation. We found a problem. Yeah. Of all the times, of all the times. Okay, so here we go. First of all, you get what your key point is. The key point, if you look at this slide, you may or may not be able to make it out properly. The key point is the one in the middle. Her issue that she was dealing with was employee engagement. So I'm giving you a real example of someone who I assisted. So she was dealing with employee engagement. That was her key point, and she wanted to, and I advised her to get an argument that can prove beyond reasonable doubt what her point, what her dissertation topic was. You could write it in a short Twitter length version. Most of you know it as your thesis statement, but if you get that key point, it's most likely about a topic that you're very passionate about. Then you choose the key sub-points. I want to draw your attention to the ones that look a little darker, that are close. It's a dark blue organizational culture, dark blue organizational basics, dark red secondary data, dark green leadership, dark yellow orange in the corner there, career development and opportunities, dark orange to the right-hand side bottom, communications. She decided that she was going to map out a conceptual framework. This is her concept of how she's going to, you can keep it on that slide. This is her concept of it. From the sub-points, she chose the key points that various previous researchers argued regarding her topic. And she worked on what she was going to do to improve on their work. You're really looking for gaps because this is a new topic. You are going to be the authority on it. And she chose the points that she agreed with and disagreed with, and noted why she was doing that. So let's just say we're looking at leadership. You have the leadership model styles, you have the assist autonomy, you have transformational leadership. This was really simple when she was starting to break it down. But what it did, and not all of you might be this colorful, she happens to be a creative. She likes things in color so that she's able to feel more engaged with her work. Some of you may decide that you want to do an Excel sheet. Some of you may be just okay with writing points. This is what she did, right? And she chose what she disagreed with and disagreed with, and she put why. This is in getting her topic together. Then she went to what is the basic background information and why she added each point so that the people who are reading it could understand what you're coming with clearly. She didn't want to be too obvious, but she was concise and direct because this is in framing her topic. Then you list the scientific methods or techniques that you will use or rely on to prove every argument, because there are different ways to prove it. One particular point may be a case study. Another particular point may be a full journal paper of analysis of the topic. Another point may be a scholarly book written by a professor. And each one of them would have had some sort of study to prove or back it up. You need to figure out what's the best method or technique that you will use to rely on to prove each of your arguments. And you presented them concisely. Like I said, I'm going to give the slides to Karen after. So what I'm saying here, you can just grasp it, okay? Then we're looking at what are the historical or primary materials you will rely on to prove your thesis? Who compiled them, right? How reliable are they, and which aspects that you find lines of exaggerations and things like that. And then for each of your arguments, you are going to look for alternative explanations. Now, this may feel really heavy in the inception, but I guarantee you that when you break them down by point and subpoints, what you agree with, what you disagree with, you would find that you try to escape, firstly, confirmation bias, because you're looking for both sides of the story. But secondly, you'd find that you're dipping in, going in further into balancing your thoughts on what your topic is and presenting a holistic dissertation, introduction, and this also works for your literature review, especially actually for your literature review. You make an Excel list of all your quotes. I gave this to her, I am giving this to you. An Excel sheet or a table is perfect. You know why? Because when you begin to research and you feel overwhelmed with all of this information, or you find it too much information, if you go into your text and you pull quotes that are really on the topic or the subpoint that you are looking to write on, you'd find that as that table grows, you begin to see overlapping with information, or you begin to quickly recognize gaps, and it makes you kind of take stock of how much information you're actually using. It actually makes you pause, because having too much information that's irrelevant is difficult to see when you're just doing the research and plugging in the information. But if you have an Excel sheet that has, this is the key point, this is the sub point, these are the quotes, this is the reference in text citation, and this is the bibliography. You firstly have something to quickly reference just in case you forget an in-text citation, or when you do pass it through your plagiarism checker, you find that you're missing something. It's good for that, but it's also good at a glance of recognizing where you're off, right? And then you expand and revise those texts as you plug them in, because you also begin to see which flow works best. And then at the end of each 2 or 3 points that you put, you just put a small text. This could be your notes, or it can also be something that you add to your writing. You can just put a little review of what would have been in your research before. What I also tell people to do is, if the appendices that you're going to build seems long or too lengthy, you could probably try to get images to convey the same type of work. Your conceptual framework, I'll give that again so that all of you just have a quick overview of it. You get your key points, which is your thesis altogether. That's irrefutable when you do it. Your sub-key points, then you look for what past researchers have argued concerning your topic. You decide what you agree with and why, what you disagree with and why. You look for basic information that could be added to each point. You decide what your methods are for arguing each point. You present your you put it into an Excel sheet, and you quote and list all of your bibliographies. And then you begin to expand and revise as you go ahead. And if you have a lengthy appendices, consider using more images. Next slide. I think you can press the point now, because there are 2 points there. So I would have, you can go ahead and press all. I would have given these as the general search engines that people use. I was explaining to Karen when we were having our little confab before this, that most people tend to use Google a lot. That's the phrase, Google it, Google. You can go ahead and press Karen. I think there are about 3 or 4 there. I've brought up, yeah, you can keep going. I've added Swisscows, Yandex, and DuckDuckGo, Startpage, Wiki.com, and I think there's one more, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, yeah, to this list. The reason why I did it, and as I was explaining to Karen, who is very, very very helpful before this presentation, is that these do not retain your search information. It also assists with you removing confirmation bias. It's very simple to constantly be, if every one of you is researching a topic, or if you are researching a topic and there are other people all over the world researching a topic, you do 1 or 2 searches, chances are, even if you begin to narrow down on your plus and your at and your and your or, which are other really nifty tricks that you can use, you begin to pull up things that other people use very often. In some of these search sites, it happens at times where you can search for something and you can get a totally different paper or scholarly article on the topic. So that was a quick touch on using multiple search engines to get your information as well. Next slide. This is an underutilized resource. one more click. Your university's librarian is actually, and I found for me at least, very useful in helping to guide you. For those of you who have challenges getting feedback from your supervisors, I implore you to start looking at utilizing your university's librarian, because that's what they're qualified to do, right? They are qualified to file, archive, do research. They have access to databases that you and all may not be able to access. And they tend to kind of give you an overview of exactly where you can head with it, or theories or topics that you have not considered or explored. And you can even engage them to look at your work, which is what I asked one of my PhD clients to do last year. She was doing research on organ donation, and she was having challenges getting information from supervisors. So she spoke to her librarian, and her librarian would have gone over everything from her English to the way her citation is and all of these things. And they're generally happy to help you if you speak to them, because most people don't know that you can actually be friends with your librarian and ask them for a little help. So I'm hoping that Naomi, you can probably try that. If you are having challenges getting feedback, speak to your librarian if you feel so inclined. That's if you're able to go in as well. And of course, recommended text journals and in courses or credits that you would have completed. Strange enough, sometimes we don't go back to some of these things. And I find that they hold very rich and important information for your topic, because sometimes that information can be a peripheral that can be added onto a subtopic, or can be hinged onto what you disagree about the topic, or what you agree about the topic. Very many times I find that when people begin to do research to write their introduction and mostly their literature review, they tend to forget that some of the credits, courses, as far back even as postgrad, undergrad, literally hold, if you're good at retaining information like I am, they literally hold information that you can use in your arguments, right? The only thing is that you would probably the quality of the text, but if anything, it can be a prompter. Next slide. And then, of course, there are online libraries and online databases that you can use. I'd give you a moment to screenshot this, because this may be important, especially for SOCI students. These are really good resources to tap into that I've found and I've used for different types of topics. I've assisted people from everywhere, from literature to engineering to medical work to business, across the spectrum. And I use any of these to begin gathering information. I'm going to take one moment to pause before I continue on this presentation to ask anyone if any of the information, because this is the thing, I could be presenting this information and think it's fully new. Some of it might be new, some of it you may agree or disagree with. Some of it you may find that you've already engaged in and begun to do. I just want to touch base with you as an audience and find out if any of this stands out to you, if any of it has been helpful so far, if anything is new to you, or if you've had challenges with any of these or explored any of these that I've given so far, before I move forward with this slide. So anyone cares to share, you can. Yes, hi Kyle, sure.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Thank you. Good evening, Alette. Thank you so much. I'm in the midst of my dissertation, and I really found it interesting when you talked about after doing our conceptual framework and looking at alternative ideas so that we could do that holistic presentation of the topic in our literature review. My question is, on the other points that you said about deciding what I agree with and why, and deciding what I disagree with and why, do I incorporate that into my literature review as well? Is that what's as I present these different ideas, do I also answer those questions along the way?
Yes. So in your literature review, if we follow there's a very simple format, I call it the read format, right? I'd send that also to you all. But if you think about the way that you present an argument, right? You have your line, you have your explanation, you have your examples, and then you have the ending. But what you want to do is make sure that the person that's reading your literature review understands that you didn't just say, okay, let's say I'm talking about employee engagement like my friend, and I am convinced that the only way to engage employees is to give them an incentive or raise with money. So I just find researchers talking about why giving them more money is good, why giving them more money might work for some, but not work for some, and totally neglect the fact that intrinsic motivators also work for employees. What it tells the reader is that you didn't dig deep enough into the work that you have, and you didn't tell them that what you are saying is strong. If you only present, so I generally tell people about Trevor Noah, and there was a time he was having a debate with a young lady named Tommy. It was during the time with Kaepernick or so, and he had her on his interview, and he, in between the scenes of Daily, he would have told one of the audience members who asked him, why did she come to his show? He said something that's very poignant, and I want to say this to everyone here today. He said, if you are in a debate or you're having a discourse with someone who has a different point of view of what you have a strong opinion on, and you get, like he's trying to say, you don't get defensive and all of that, you engage them in the conversation, because one thing it does, it just proves how strong your belief in your stance is, but it also opens you up to another perspective. I have carried that with me everywhere I go when I'm writing, because I find it very important. And so I'm saying that to say this: when you are writing your literature review, as much as possible, make sure that you touch on at least one opposing point, but always refute it or always reinforce your point right after you do that. So you write your point, your line, your strong opening line. You write whatever you want to use, your thesis, your thoughts leader, whoever, quote to back it up. You give an example. Then you can say something as, other scholarly authors have argued that, and you put their point, because you have to give homage to them. They did work that was seemingly opposing to what you are trying to prove. And then you can come back after that with your point and say, however, X, Y, and Z has claimed, or this research has shown, and then you end off with your point. It makes your paragraphs tighter, it makes your argument stronger, it makes your literature review much more holistic. And the reader then says, okay, yeah, I believe you, that point makes sense, let's go with this. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Right. I know we still have some Q&A, so I will move on, and I'll pause again for anyone else that may want to ask a question. So next slide, Karen. Oh yeah, Google Books. All of these, you can go back to that slide, Karen. And if anyone wants to screenshot it quickly in the interim, I can give you like 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, next slide. So for those of you who really just have a challenge just starting with writing, we're going all the way back to the introduction, right? And picking or narrowing your topic. I tend to find that you shouldn't just don't bother to reinvent the wheel. In many cases, there are so many studies, even in other languages, there are studies that can be translated that at some point would have dealt with a topic that you want to explore. And the truth is that they represent templates you can follow, as in how they even begin to open their introduction. Some people start off with a quote, some people start off with a very strong declaration. You can follow that. They give you ideas for the format and the flow of your actual dissertation from beginning to end. They give you prompts for information to consider, because at some point in that writing, they're going to have a quote, they're going to have an image, they're going to refer to a model of thought, they're going to refer to some sort of strategy. They give you, they actually spoon feed you how your dissertation for your PhD or any other thesis should be. And then they tend to show you commonalities between studies and what you may be looking to find out information about. This is another thing that Karen, darling that she is, and I were talking about, and she would have mentioned, oh, I love a good meta-analysis. I want to implore to everyone here, if you can even just search meta-analysis on, you would find that that is one of the richest resources for concise information in multiple journals or articles that are credible, that you can dive into off the top of your head. And I think that if you're really, really stuck, this is a hack that I give people. If you're really, really stuck, just look for dissertations that are close to your topic and comb through it. Give yourself a day or so to comb through it. And you will see things in there that are going to prompt you. It's going to tell you, oh, this is how the person layered their work. Oh, they started this broad, but they didn't go here. They went here. Oh, they made reference to, oh yeah, I know that I want to use this author as well. Yes, I remember the study. If it's a meta-analysis, you'd find that right there you have all these journals. Some of them may not be timely, because we know sometimes you need to get more recent research, but the more recent your meta-analysis study, the more information you'd get within the time frame that you would like to do your research on to populate your dissertation. So this is a hack that can help you from beginning to end. And if you find the right one, the only thing is it takes a while to find the right one. But if you find the right one, like you give yourself 3 days, maybe even a week, for some of us who have, I saw earlier, you're just so exhausted. This is something for someone like you. You're so exhausted that you're trying to focus. If you dedicate some time to find one dissertation or thesis that's close to your topic, and you pay attention to the flow, I guarantee you will have enough prompts to begin to understand how to layer and roll out your dissertation. Yeah, next slide. So, and this is for the people having challenges with their literature review. The same method applies. Use a literature review to build your literature review. I am a big fan of not reinventing the wheel, because the truth is, writing a PhD, so many thousands of words, right? You really are going to have a challenge building all of this on your own. But don't reinvent the wheel. A literature review says exactly what should be in your paper. And it goes back to the point from before in figuring out what you agree with and what you disagree with. They show you how to group your thoughts, especially the very credible ones, right? Because there are some, a little iffy, but if you have access to your high quality databases, you definitely are going to get how you should group your thoughts. They are great templates for the formats, and they also give you opposing points to minimize the bias of your arguments. So for the person who would have said that the literature review, writing the Aquanet, I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly. Right,
yes, you did.
Okay, great. What you should do is look for a topic that's close to yours and just go straight to the literature review. Because that's the body of the paper, right? It's usually about 45% of your entire dissertation. That's where you go, follow it, and then pull out your points. And if you find one or two, especially through a meta-analysis, you're even better off. Next slide.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Reference lists and bibliographies. It should be a go-to for everything. If you look up a journal, a conference paper, a blog, an article, a report, the footnotes, what it does, it helps you identify ancillary information, right? Some of the things that would have never come to mind for you. It's a good source of credible information, of course, but here is the secret sauce. It actually tells you what the researcher, what their process was, and what you should consider adopting. If you look at a literature, a reference list or bibliography, you would actually see a commonality in what they were looking for. It helps you narrow what you're looking for. I'm not saying you have to take exactly what they researched, but if you, it's a skill, it is a skill, but if you really pay attention to a bibliography, you will understand off the top of your head, after a few bibliographies, you start to realize, oh, so that's how this researcher approached this. They looked at this, they pulled a little report here, they went to a conference paper for this. So maybe the conference paper has it more concise. That's where I might get rich information because it's more up to date. Or they chose this person really often, they really went after this author a lot. These are things that are magical when it comes to you building your source bank, so to say. Next slide. Facebook groups should have taken off number 19. This was 19 in my hacks class. Facebook groups, it's so unusual, right? That I found really interesting ways to get information for topics that I was having challenges getting information for. A Facebook group, there are many of them that are academic based, wouldn't you believe? Sometimes you could search and get in, and you could literally type in a question, and some of these people will either inbox you or they will answer under the thread. I bet some of you have never tried that before, right? And in some cases, they actually give you the paper or they give you an ebook or a PDF. And some of them offer to review your stuff. I mean, if you're willing to pay them, but I wouldn't go that way because I always go back to the librarian. So these were things that I would have screenshotted when I was doing, I was just doing some study to find out if it actually works. And I saw where people would have inboxed each other and given each other papers to review. Found it very interesting. So if you're hitting that issue with even knowing where to start, just drop it in a Facebook group that's academically based. You may find that you get really quick feedback or none at all, but at least you'll be in a space that you can access information arbitrarily. Next slide. And this is like one of my biggest pieces of advice that I give people. Phone a friend or an expert, not just a librarian. I mean, come on. Somebody else in your network would have been reading or following up on some things or passionate about the same thing that you're in, or know someone that could give you some insight into something else. It may not necessarily be something that you could write in and quote that person about, but it can help expand your thoughts on how to approach the topic and why, and you can engage in a conversation. And if you have a certain learning style and you want to be back and forth with someone, then you can engage in that sort of debate, bounce your ideas off of them, debate with them to find out if your argument is strong enough, and then you can get really good prompters for your paper. So this is a really simple one that you can probably try out. Survey your networks and see exactly how you can engage them to help you out with approaching your work. Next slide.
And I just want to give a very quick plug to the Dissertation Writing Circle Facebook group that Dr. Hernandez is a founder of. If you are joining us this evening and you're in that group, that is, to Alette Liz Williams' point, a great opportunity for you to connect with others who are in the dissertation writing process and ask each other questions and get feedback from each other around your topic or your method or any other things that you might be dealing with in terms of your progress, or just motivate each other. I know I recently joined as an admin for the group, and I love posting motivational quotes and gifts and things like that. To be honest, it motivates me too. So if you're not a part of that group, definitely jump over on Facebook and look for the Dissertation Writing Circle, and we will be happy to have you join us. Okay, infomercial over.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Yes, for that. And I find that what's important that it really comes down to discipline. It's not even about motivation. There are certain apps that I use that help me to help people or help me to do research for people. I use the Hemingway app that tells me if my text is hard to read. Hemingway app, HEMMINGWAY.app is it's a free resource. If you're writing and you're trying to cut down on how many edits and proofreading your supervisor who actually reads it may decide that they want to go ahead with, listen, go in the Hemingway app and it will tell you this is too hard to read. It's kind of like Grammarly, only you can plug it in anywhere and you can put a whole text in it. You can also use 750 words, 750 words. It gives you it prompts you to write 750 words a day, or you can even start with 200 words a day. I am that type of person that utilizes technology. Other people may need different types of prompters. Repeat the website. Let me put it in the chat. Hemingway edit. You get it. Hemingwayapp.com. Yeah, it's in the chat. Hemingwayapp.com. Let me get the 750 words for you. Right, every day. You'll see it in the next slide. I want to draw your attention to the citation tools, Mendeley, Lazy Scholar, Zotero. You can go back. And I want to quickly touch on this because I think this is also important for you and you can take a screenshot of this. Mendeley is a really nice way of it. It changes if you are you are writing in a reference style, and weirdly enough, you find out that there's an upgraded version that you weren't using. When you're using the Mendeley Reference Manager, which has every type of citation style on it, and you make a change, it changes throughout the entire document. That's one that I find very interesting, and I like Mendeley for that. Lazy Scholar is a plugin that goes into your Chrome bar or whatever search engine you use. What it does is when you look for a journal, what Lazy Scholar does is immediately ranks your journal. It tells you how many people would have used that journal or referenced it or cited it. And it also gives you a PDF version of the journal for you to download. I love it because I like to see how many times something was used to also give me a gauge of how many people have used it. And Zotero is a personal research assistant. It will pack all of your references to build a beautiful bibliography if you're not the type of person that likes to build your citation. But there are others like BibMe and Cite This for Me and so on. I don't think that you should discard them. I just think that these are also additions that you can look into because sometimes what you use can make your life easier. And one of these might just work better for you. Yes, next slide. So the writing tools I have put here, but the 750 words is here. Quillbot, I love it. Quillbot is good at paraphrasing because sometimes we get stuck when we're trying to rephrase something to not have it show up in plagiarism, and it gets very challenging. I have upgraded to premium because I don't like inconvenience. I like access to everything. And it helps me a lot too because sometimes I'm really stuck. It gives you about 5 or 6 different ways to paraphrase your work. Shorten, expand, creative, formal, fluent, standard, simple, right? Visual thesaurus. It's also a way for you to find the connection between words. So for those of you who may have a bit of a challenge with figuring out how you want to phrase something and not repeating something too often, yeah, Quillbot is a whole vibe. Visual Thesis is really good at mapping words so that you can know what to search for. Scrivener is a go-to app for writers for long projects. So you go into it, you follow the work,
and up for the Zoom real quick.
Please make sure you're muted.
Oh, sorry. And of course, the 750 words, it's a prompter and it's a motivator that helps you track at least writing every day. Next slide. and the secret sauce, which is Otter.ai. Otter.ai, I call it my secret sauce because with the basic package, you can actually talk. If you're not feeling to type, for the person who feels stressed, you come home, you're reading work, and it's very challenging for you to sit down behind a system and type, I pull up my Otter.ai and I write and I speak. If you're having a discussion with someone about your topic and they're giving you very good insight, get Otter.ai. It gives you about, I think, 2 hours if you're free, and then it goes up if you're on premium. You can look for it. You just have them talk, just have the discussion. It breaks it down speaker by speaker. It's a transcription service. I think it's awesome, especially for conversations that get very deep and you find yourself having challenges retaining information. Or even if you just don't want to write and you just decide that you're going to talk into this device and have it transcribe what you're saying, and then you come back and you plug in your references after. Quillbot is awesome. Otter.ai is awesome for that. I like giving people ease because you have so much to do already. When you have really good technology like this, it makes the more granular things a little easier, a little better for you to be able to navigate. So next slide. So that brings me to the end of my presentation on getting started. And I just want to address the individual Naomi, who said you're in the writing process. No, not Naomi, actually, it's the Robin, having a topic, and while trying to find a sponsor, you're not having the potential sponsor want to change your topic. It comes down to the going back to how strongly you present your point and proving the value in the gap, right? So yes, there are times when you engage with a professor or supervisor, and because they have a particular study, I found this as well, they have a particular study, they may think that your research may assist their study. Or they just want to, I had someone who wanted to do something in education, and the supervisor told him to focus on climate change and try to link it to education for tertiary students. I found that was crazy. Even the way he was explaining it, it was not something he was passionate about. And it was very difficult for him to get that supervisor to change their mind. In some cases, you may have to change your supervisor, but it really comes down to following that process earlier up of mapping your conceptual framework and proving without a shadow of a doubt through the use of alternative or those points that are opposite to yours, like strengthening your argument and presenting it like that. So your proposal, though, is what's going to have to sell that. And those are very tricky to navigate, but you know, it's about just being respectful and seeing that it's something you're passionate about. It's something that you can prove. It's something that you would like to be the authority on, and then presenting the arguments that are strong enough for you to be able to convince them that it might be an interesting thing to tap into. So yes, I know we have about 4 more minutes for staying into the
yes, we have a couple minutes left. I am going to go ahead and stop recording, and then we can take our last several moments if folks have questions for Alette Liz Williams. So with that, I will now